Tell your son this, I let it slide once. There won't be a next time, Mr. Johnson. He's just a kid, a schoolboy. He doesn't deserve, I don't care how old he is. He disrespected my daughter. This isn't a story about violence. It's about silence that can shake the ground. Amara Johnson was just a quiet black girl at school, always alone, always ignored, until the rich, racist kid chose her as his next target. He humiliated her in front of everyone. He didn't know her father was Isaiah Johnson. And Isaiah doesn't speak twice, no fights, no threats, just a phone call, and a storm no one could see coming. This is silent power. Before we dive into this story, let us know where you're watching from. And don't forget to subscribe because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. Willow Creek High was a noisy place. Laughter, slamming lockers, sneakers echoing across shiny floors. But in that chaos, Amara Johnson moved like fog quiet, unnoticed. She was black, 15, tall and slim, always in the same gray hoodie, eyes half hidden beneath dark curls. She didn't speak unless necessary. Sat in the back, ate alone. She wasn't shy, she was watching. People assumed she was weak, they were wrong. At Willow Creek, power came from wealth, last names, and how loud you could be. Amara had none of that, and yet, she carried something no one could name. No one knew who her father was, at home. Isaiah Johnson read newspapers in silence. He didn't scold. He didn't raise his voice, but his presence was heavy, like pressure before a storm. In certain circles, his name made grown men drop their tone. Amara didn't fully understand what her father did, but she knew this no one crossed him twice. That Monday, she arrived at school, like always, head down, ears covered in music, sliding through the crowd. Nothing changed. Until Brent Wallace noticed her. Son of the mayor, blonde, loud, entitled. He was used to controlling every room he walked into, and Amara's silence. It offended him. The first time he bumped into her, she didn't flinch. He smirked, said, "Watch it, hoodie." No response. He tried again the next day, took her pen in class, laughed, still nothing. That look in her eyes, it wasn't fear, and that made him mad. By Wednesday, Brent pushed harder. In gym, he tripped Amara on purpose. She hit the ground hard. He waited for reaction anger, maybe tears. But she stood, brushed off her knees, and walked away without a word. Later, he blocked her locker. "Lost your voice, hoodie girl," he said, leaning in close, "or you just think you're better than us." Still, no response. Just that unreadable stare. It made his skin crawl. She didn't fear him, and Brent had never met anyone who didn't. Amara kept quiet at home too. That evening, she walked into the living room. Her father sat at the table, reading. He looked up briefly. "You good?" She nodded. He studied her a moment longer, then went back to his paper. That was all. But Isaiah Johnson noticed everything. He didn't press. He didn't need to. The next day, Brent upped the game. As Amara sat alone at lunch, he walked by, slapped her tray to the ground. Food splattered. The cafeteria went silent. Brent laughed. "Oops, my bad." Everyone watched. Amara knelt, picked up the tray, threw out what was ruined, and sat back down. She didn't look at him, didn't look at anyone. That silence. It scared him more than any punch ever could. He didn't know why. He just knew. It felt like losing. That night, Brent couldn't stop thinking about her. He stared at the picture a friend had snapped Amara, picking up her lunch tray. Face half hidden, back straight. It bothered him. He wanted to break that calm, so he opened an app, warped her photo, stretched the eyes, twisted the smile, turned it grotesque. Then he added bold red text, "Silent Psycho." He laughed, sent it to a group chat, posted it anonymously. By morning, it was everywhere. Students whispered in the hall. Phones buzzed with the same image. Some laughed. Some looked uneasy. No one stopped it. Amara saw it. She stood in the hallway, surrounded by stares, her phone screen glowing with the photo, her face twisted, her name mocked, but her expression. Still, she turned off the phone, slid it into her pocket, and walked to class like nothing had happened. No rage, no tears, no confrontation. But that night, at home, she walked into the living room and laid her phone on the table in front of her father. He didn't ask questions, didn't blink. He studied the image, the caption, the cruelty. Then he set down his coffee and said only 5 words. "Who did this to you?" She looked at him. Brent Wallace. Her father nodded once. No anger, no threats. But in that moment, something shifted in the room. Heavy, still, certain. Brent had crossed a line, and Amara no longer had to fight. Because the quiet was over. Brent thought it was over. He thought she'd break. But when Amara showed up the next day, same hoodie, same stare, he felt something strange twist in his gut. She wasn't avoiding him. She wasn't flinching. She was just there, still, and suddenly, that scared him more than he could admit. So he pushed further. During math, he whispered loud enough for others to hear. Careful. She might snap any second. People chuckled. During passing period, someone shoved a fake warning sign on her locker. Danger, mentally unstable. No one stopped it. No one helped. But still, Amara didn't speak. She didn't cry, and that silence. It spread, made the halls colder. Even Brent's friends noticed. "Man," one said, "maybe back off. She's weird." But Brent shook his head. He couldn't back off now, not when the whole school was watching, not when her silence made him feel powerless. He came up with a new plan. Something public, something no one would forget. Lunchtime, full cafeteria. He stood on a chair at his table and shouted across the room, "Hey, Amara, what's for lunch? Another poverty sandwich from your deadbeat dad?" Laughter exploded. Phones came up, all eyes on her. Amara looked up, just once, and in that look flat, calm, quiet. Brent felt it again, that cold pit in his stomach, that tiny voice that whispered, "You went too far." After that lunchroom stunt, Brent felt invincible. The videos got views, the comments were ruthless, the school was buzzing and he was the center. But Amara, she didn't even flinch. She just picked up her tray, walked out, and left silence in her wake. It wasn't defeat, it was control. That evening, she stepped into the house the same way as always, shoes off. Hoodie hung by the door. Her father was sitting in the kitchen, sipping tea. Classical music hummed low from a radio. She placed her phone on the table. He looked at her, then the screen, the video, the comments, the caption, "Crazy black chick loses it in cafeteria." His fingers stilled on the mug. For a moment, he said nothing. Then, quietly, almost too soft to hear, "I see." No yelling, no slammed fists. But the air in the kitchen shifted. He stood slowly, walked to the window, and stared out at the night. Amara sat down. There was no fear in her, only certainty. Hours later, without warning, the post vanished. Then the account, then every repost. Phones lit up with error messages. This content is unavailable. Some students received anonymous messages. Deleted. Before someone deletes you, no name, no threat. But the message worked. By morning, not a trace of the video remained. And Brent, he noticed, because this time, it wasn't funny anymore. Brent sat up in bed, staring at his phone. His post gone, his account disabled. He tried logging in. This account does not exist. He checked his backup account. Same thing. He texted his friends, "Yo, you seeing this?" But none of them replied, not one. And that was when he knew someone was cleaning house. At midnight, a landline rang inside the Wallace home. Only one person ever used that number. Isaiah Johnson, Brent's father, Mayor Wallace, picked up with a groggy voice. "Hello?" There was no greeting, only silence. Then a deep, slow voice spoke. "Teach your son how to behave, or I will." Click, no threats, no cursing, just truth. The kind that can't be reasoned with. Mayor Wallace sat in his chair for a long time, pale, staring into nothing. Minutes later, Brent's bedroom door flew open. His father entered, face like stone. "What did you do to Isaiah Johnson's daughter?" Brent blinked. Who? But he saw it in his father's eyes, real fear. The kind that doesn't come from police or politics, the kind that comes from power with no limits. For the first time in his life, Brent had no comeback. He just sat there, small, quiet, and very, very afraid. Brent didn't show up to school the next morning. No one said why, but the halls felt different, quieter. His friends kept their heads down. No jokes, no pranks, just silence, and Amara. She walked through the crowd, like always calm, hoodie up, unreadable. But now, people looked at her differently, not with pity, with caution. Rumors moved fast. "I heard his dad got a call. Someone saw Brent crying last night. No, seriously, like shaking. No one said Isaiah's name, but somehow, everyone knew." At lunch, Amara sat in her usual spot-corner table, tray in front of her, alone, but not ignored. People stared, whispered. No one dared sit near her. No one dared mock her either. Across the room, a girl who used to laugh when Brent bullied Amara kept glancing over. Then she looked down at her tray, picked at her food, and said nothing. Even the loud kids stayed quiet. It wasn't just about Brent disappearing. It was about what they didn't understand. What happened? What did she do? Who did she tell? That fear of the unknown, it was stronger than any punch Brent could have thrown. And Amara. She didn't have to say a word. She just sat there, still. And for the first time, silence belonged to her. That afternoon, one of Brent's old crew tried to joke near her table. It wasn't even about her, just some dumb comment about another student. But when he laughed, the sound felt wrong, too loud, too forced. Everyone at the table froze. Then, slowly, one by one, they stood up and left. The boy sat there alone, face burning. He didn't laugh again that day. Amara watched it all without reaction, not smug, not satisfied, just observant, like always. In the locker room, someone whispered, "I heard she didn't even do anything." Another replied, "That's what makes it worse. They were scared of her. Not because she fought back, not because she exposed Brent, but because she hadn't said a single word, and somehow he vanished. Amara's photo still lived in people's minds, but no one dared reshare it. It had become legend, something spoken about in private, never out loud. Some said her father was ex-military. Others claimed he ran some kind of shadow operation. One girl whispered, "Her dad's not just scary, he's untouchable." None of them really knew, but that didn't matter. What mattered was this. They stopped laughing, and they started watching. Every move Amara made, every silence she held. Because now, that silence wasn't invisible, it was power. 3 days passed, no Brent, no explanation. His locker stayed closed. His name disappeared from the class roster. Teachers avoided questions. It was like he never existed. But everyone remembered, especially the ones who once laughed. Lena, Brent's ex-girlfriend, used to snicker the loudest when he humiliated Amara. Now, she barely spoke. She walked with her head down, eyes scanning the floor like it might crack beneath her feet. In the halls, when she passed Amara, she flinched. Reflex, fear. Amara didn't even look at her. She didn't need to. At lunch, for the first time, someone approached her table. It wasn't a bully. It wasn't a follower. It was a girl from math class, quiet, bookish. Not part of any group. She stood there, tray in hand, voice soft. "Is it okay if I sit here?" Amara nodded once, no words. The girl sat, others noticed. And still no one dared say a thing. That day, Amara walked through Willow Creek not as a ghost, not as a victim, but as something new, untouchable, unmoved. The same hoodie, the same silence, but now it spoke louder than any scream. At midnight, the Wallace mansion's private landline rang. No one outside the family had that number. Mayor Wallace picked up, already uneasy. "Hello." Silence. Then a voice, deep and slow. "You had your chance. Keep your boy away, or I'll teach him myself." Click. No threats, no insults, just a final warning. Brent's father didn't sleep that night. He sat alone in the kitchen, staring at the wall, hands shaking. He knew that voice. Isaiah Johnson, not a man, a force. Someone you didn't cross, someone who didn't bluff. Upstairs, Brent was still in denial. "It's just rumors," he muttered. "He's nobody." But his father's pale face told another story. "You're leaving town," Mayor Wallace said flatly. "What?" "You're done here, but Dad." No arguments. The next morning, Brent was gone. No goodbye, no explanation, just silence. And in that silence, the school began to shift. The group that once followed him dissolved. The ones who laughed with him now whispered behind closed doors. Nobody wanted to be next. Nobody wanted to test what came after the warning. And Amara, she walked through the front doors of Willow Creek the same as always, but for the first time, no one looked down on her. Whispers filled the halls. "I heard Brent got sent to another state. Someone said his family sold the house overnight." No one saw it coming, but Amara did. She saw it the moment she placed her phone in front of her father. Not because he promised revenge, but because he didn't have to. Power doesn't shout. It doesn't argue. It just moves, and people move out of the way. Teachers stopped asking Amara if she was okay. They spoke to her with more pause now, more respect. Even Principal Carson nodded at her in the hallway, eyes avoiding hers like he didn't want to be remembered. Lena Parker kept her distance. The girl who once sneered at Amara now flinched at her footsteps. She tried just once to apologize. Caught her near her locker. I didn't mean for things to go that far. She stammered. Amara didn't answer. She closed her locker and walked away. No anger, no forgiveness. Just a truth that left Lena standing alone, smaller than ever. Silence had changed. Before, it made Amara invisible. Now, it made everyone else uncertain. No one knew what she was thinking, what she might do, what she might already have done. And in that uncertainty, they gave her space. Lots of it. Days passed. Brent's name stopped coming up in conversation. No one dared ask why he left. They just accepted it, like a ghost story everyone knew, but no one retold. Amara didn't change her routine, still wore the hoodie, still sat alone at times. But it wasn't loneliness anymore, it was presence, when she walked by. Heads turned not in mockery, but in caution. Not fear of violence, fear of what they couldn't explain, fear of what silence might mean. She never spoke of Brent, never claimed victory, never told her side, and somehow that made it worse for them, because the unknown always speaks louder than truth. At home, her father didn't mention it either. He simply poured her a glass of water one evening, slid it across the table, and said, "Sometimes, silence is the last word." Amara met his eyes, then nodded. They didn't need to say more, they never did. That night, she lay in bed, eyes open, heart still. Not because she was scared, but because for the first time she wasn't. The fear had shifted. It no longer lived inside her, it lived in them. The Johnson home sat at the edge of town, modest from the outside white siding. Small porch, a mailbox with faded letters. But inside, everything was immaculate, ordered, controlled. That night, Isaiah Johnson sat at the kitchen table. One lamp lit, steam rising from his cup of tea. He didn't ask questions. He didn't press. He had already seen the photo, heard the whispers. He simply waited. Amara entered the room, placed her backpack on the floor. They didn't greet each other. He gestured to the chair across from him. She sat for a moment. Neither spoke. Then Isaiah finally asked, voice calm, "You want me to handle it?" Amara met his eyes. No. He nodded slowly, not disappointed, not surprised. "But if I start," he said, "I don't stop halfway." She didn't flinch. "You won't have to." Outside, a car passed on the street. A dog barked in the distance. Inside, the air hung thick. This wasn't anger. This was preparation. Isaiah stood, stretched his back, and walked to the window. Through the curtains, he watched the quiet town. "They think silence means weakness," he said. Amara looked down at her hands, but they've forgotten something. She glanced up. He turned back, eyes cold and certain. Real power doesn't make noise. That was all. No phone calls made, no orders given, not yet, but the shadow had already begun to move, and Isaiah Johnson didn't need to act loud, to act at all. That same night, a message went out, not a tweet, not a post, just a short text. Sent from a number no one could trace. Take it down, now. Every student who had shared the video or photo of Amara received it. Some laughed. Then, within minutes, their phones glitched. Accounts vanished, storage wiped, messages gone, like they never existed. In one group chat, someone typed, "This is crazy. Who's behind this?" Another replied, "Her dad. I heard he's connected." No one replied after that. The chat went silent. At Willow Creek, the air shifted. People didn't just avoid Amara now, they avoided each other. Friendships frayed. Conversations shortened. No one wanted to be next. In the teacher's lounge, Mr. Garcia whispered to Ms. Langston, "She's Isaiah Johnson's daughter." Langston blinked. "That Isaiah?" Garcia nodded. Langston swallowed hard. They said nothing else. Back home, Isaiah sat in his usual chair, reading. Amara passed by with a quiet nod. He returned it. Nothing more needed to be said. She had asked him not to step in. And technically, he hadn't. He had only watched. But those who knew better, those who lived long enough, who remembered his past, understood one thing. When Isaiah Johnson watches, people disappear. Saturday morning, a black SUV pulled up outside the Wallace residence. No logos, no plates, just presence inside. Mayor Wallace was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table, hands trembling around his coffee. He didn't expect a knock, because people like Isaiah didn't knock, but it came anyway. 3 slow taps. Then silence. He opened the door. No one was there. Only a white envelope on the welcome mat. Inside, a printed photo of Brent, standing over Amara's spilled lunch tray. Smirking. Nothing written. No threats. No return address. Just a message without words. "I know everything." By noon, the Wallace family's security detail was doubled. By evening, the house was listed for sale. No press, no goodbye, just quiet and retreat. At school, rumors spread like wildfire wrapped in fear. Amara said nothing, but everyone knew this wasn't luck. This was legacy. Some students tried to act normal, forced jokes, nervous laughter, but when Amara walked by, the sound stopped. Not because she demanded it, because her silence now held gravity. People leaned away when she passed, like her presence bent the air. Isaiah never showed up at school, never threatened anyone in public, but the hallway knew his name. The town remembered his face, and from that moment on, Amara Johnson was no longer alone. Brent never came back. No warning, no transfer notice, just gone. His name was erased from the attendance sheet, his locker emptied overnight. Photos of him disappeared from school displays like he was never part of it, but he left something behind. Fear. Students whispered his name like a curse. "I heard he's in some facility out of state." "Nah, his dad sent him overseas. Whatever it is, he's not coming back." And nobody missed him. Even his old friends stopped talking about him. They had seen too much. One kid made a joke in class, a quick jab about Amara's hoodie. The room went dead quiet. The teacher stopped mid-sentence, and the kid, he went pale, looked down, and muttered, "Sorry, not to Amara," just out loud. Nobody challenged her anymore, not because she was loud, not because she fought back, but because she didn't have to. Brent was proof that some lines should never be crossed, proof that silence wasn't surrender. It was warning. Even the teachers noticed. Mr. Garcia started calling her Miss Johnson. Principal Carson nodded to her in the hall, eyes respectful, careful. And Amara, she didn't gloat, she didn't smirk, she just walked the same way she always had. Head down, back straight, one step at a time, but now, no one stood in her way. The fallout didn't stop at Brent. Other names started to surface. Kids who once laughed with him, shared his memes, backed him up when he mocked others. Suddenly, they weren't untouchable anymore. One boy, Jason, used to film Brent's pranks. He got pulled from school without explanation. His parents claimed family emergency. Another girl, Maya, had posted the edited photo of Amara. She deleted her entire Instagram account the same week. When asked why, she just said, "It's not worth it." No one pressed. Rumors flew. Someone's watching. They're cleaning house. Even the principal got a warning. None of it confirmed. All of it believed. The hallways were quieter now. Fewer jokes, fewer loud voices. It was like the whole school was holding its breath, not out of fear of Amara, but of what she represented. A substitute teacher once made a lazy comment during roll call. Mispronounced her name, smirked. Amara didn't respond. But after class, the sub was gone. Next day, a new one replaced him. No explanation. Just absence. By then, it wasn't just about her father. It was about perception, influence, and the lesson everyone had learned. Mock the quiet girl and disappear. Still, Amara said nothing. Still, she didn't change. And yet, everything around her had. By the end of the month, things at Willow Creek had changed for good. No more pranks, no more jokes whispered in hallways. Even the morning announcements were shorter, clean, formal, careful. It was like the whole school had been reset. The word Amara carried weight now. Not fame, not fear, respect. A freshman dropped her books near the vending machines. Amara was walking by. She knelt, helped pick them up, handed them back. The girl looked stunned. "You're not, like they say." Amara gave a half smile. "I never was," then kept walking. That moment spread faster than any rumor. She wasn't cruel, she wasn't angry, she was just steady, and people finally saw it. Even outside of school, whispers carried. Other schools heard. Kids at other lunch tables said things like, "Don't mess with quiet girls. You know what happened at Willow Creek?" Some laughed nervously, some just nodded. The legend had grown larger than the truth. But Amara never fed it. She didn't speak on it. She didn't deny it. She just lived. Amara never wanted to be a symbol. She just wanted peace. To walk through the halls without whispers. To sit in class without being mocked. To exist without permission. But the world doesn't always give you peace. Sometimes you have to become it. And when you do, it shakes everything around you. One day, a new girl transferred to Willow Creek. Same skin tone, same quiet vibe, same unsure eyes. She kept to herself, avoided attention, carried a second-hand backpack. The cycle was about to repeat. Kids started watching her the same way they once watched Amara, waiting, testing. Until the girl sat down at lunch, alone, and Amara walked over. No big speech, no announcement. She just pulled out her tray and sat beside her. Silence. "Then food here's trash on Fridays. Bring your own." The girl blinked, then smiled. It wasn't grand. It wasn't loud, but it sent a message louder than Brent ever could have screamed. "You're not alone anymore." That moment became a ripple. Two girls eating together. No big deal, except it was. Because the real lesson wasn't in what Amara had survived. It was in what she chose to do with her strength. Not revenge, not fear, just presence, protection, and quiet power. In English class, a discussion about heroes came up, names like Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, even fictional ones, Black Panther, Katniss Everdeen. The teacher asked the class, "What makes someone powerful?" Answers flew, speaking up, fighting back, taking charge. But when the question came to Amara, the room stilled. She paused, thought carefully, then said, "Sometimes. Power is just not letting them change who you are." Silence. The teacher nodded slowly. Class moved on. But that sentence stayed behind, hung in the air, settled into people's minds. Later that week, a freshman boy got shoved near the lockers. Nobody laughed. Nobody filmed. A junior stepped between them and said, "Not here, not anymore." Amara didn't see it happen. She didn't need to. The shift had already taken root. And it wasn't about fear of her or her father anymore. It was about respect, the kind that spreads when someone stands tall without yelling, without swinging, just by standing. Lena, Brent's ex, crossed paths with Amara one afternoon. She didn't try to speak, just looked her in the eye, nodded slightly. Amara nodded back, nothing more. But in that tiny moment, something was acknowledged. Growth, regret, change. Not everyone learns the first time, but the smart ones. They remember silence longer than sound. A few weeks later, the counselor asked Amara if she'd speak at a school assembly. Not a speech, she said quickly, just a message. A closing note. Amara thought for a long time, then wrote something small, a few lines, not for applause, not to impress, just truth. The day came. Students shuffled into the gym, expecting another boring lecture. Instead, Amara walked to the mic, no music, no intro, just her. She looked out over the crowd, some faces familiar, others new, then spoke. Not every fight needs noise. Not every win looks loud. Sometimes, the strongest thing you can do is stay exactly who you are. That was it. She stepped down. No fanfare, just silence, and this time, it felt earned. Students didn't cheer, they didn't clap wildly. They sat with it, let it sink in, because deep down, they knew. She didn't win by fighting back. She won by never giving up who she was. Outside the gym, someone had scribbled across the wall, "Silent power." No one painted over it. No one laughed. They just left it there, like a new rule, a new warning, or maybe a reminder. And Amara. She never stopped wearing the hoodie, because it wasn't hiding her, it was her armor, her story, her choice. The school year moved on. Seasons shifted. Faces came and went. But one thing stayed the same. Every morning, at 7:43 a.m., Amara Johnson walked through the front gates of Willow Creek High. Same hoodie, same headphones, same steady pace. But now, when people saw her, they didn't look away. They didn't laugh, they didn't whisper, they watched. Some with curiosity, some with respect, some with something like awe. She didn't try to lead, didn't try to inspire, she just lived, fully, quietly, herself. And that, somehow, became the loudest message the school had ever heard. On the first warm day of spring, she sat under the oak tree near the track field, hoodie still on, notebook open, sunlight through the branches above. Two girls from the freshman class passed by. One of them whispered, "That's her." The other one, wide-eyed, asked, "Should we say something?" "No," the first girl said. "She's just walking." They didn't disturb her, they just kept walking too, but slower, softer, like something sacred had passed through. Amara looked up briefly, saw them, then smiled just a little, then went back to writing. She didn't need the world to understand her. She didn't need anyone's permission to exist. She had already proven everything she needed to prove, just by staying true to herself. And by walking on. It wasn't about fear anymore. It wasn't even about respect. It was about something deeper: space. Space Amara had carved with silence. Space for others to be themselves without explanation. In the spring, a group project paired her with 3 students she barely knew. There was tension at first, those awkward silences, cautious glances. But by the end of the week, they weren't afraid of her. They were listening. Not because she told them what to do, but because when she spoke, she meant it. And when she was quiet, it meant even more. One day after school, a younger boy ran into her literally, dropped his backpack, papers everywhere. He froze. But Amara simply knelt, picked up the pages, handed them back. "No worries," she said softly. He nodded, wide-eyed, then ran off. It was small, but it mattered. The world didn't shift with explosions. It shifted one quiet moment at a time, and Amara, she had become a series of those moments, each one stronger than the last. At home, Isaiah saw it too. One night, he watched her from the kitchen doorway. She was doing homework, hoodie still on, focused. He didn't interrupt, just stood there for a second longer than usual, proud but silent, like always. Amara didn't need a stage. She didn't need revenge. She had something rarer, something earned. Dignity. The final week of school felt different. No chaos, no countdowns, just calm. The kind of calm that settles when something has already been won. Amara walked the halls slowly that Friday. Not because she was tired, but because she wanted to feel it one last time. The light from the windows, the rhythm of lockers closing, the quiet respect in every glance. She hadn't changed who she was, but she had changed everything around her. A teacher stopped her near the entrance. "Thank you," she said simply. "For what?" The teacher hesitated, then smiled. "For showing them there's another way." Amara nodded once, didn't say more. That was her way. As she stepped outside, she didn't rush. She let the sunlight hit her face. A breeze tugged gently at her hoodie. And for the first time in a long time, she didn't feel like she was hiding. She felt like she was home inside herself. Across the street, a younger student watched her go. She didn't wave, didn't speak, just stood there, taking it in, like watching something sacred, a kind of silent goodbye. Amara turned the corner, not to escape the past, but to carry it forward. Because the quiet ones, when they walk, they don't just move, they lead. If this story touched your heart, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Every click helps us bring more powerful stories of empathy, justice, and silent strength to life. Your support is what fuels this journey. Let's keep standing together and rising higher, one story at a time. Stay safe and inspired.